So I realized that last year, with me moving 2 times and everything that was going on, that there were a few months that I did not do wrap-ups for, and that was August, September, November, and December. So 4 months in 2021 that I did not do wrap-ups for. And I went back and looked at my list of books that I read during that month, and there were certainly ones on my list that I didn't think deserved to be talked about or recommended, but there were several that I read that I think were really good books, and I would like to recommend them to you if you haven't already read them. And I think I have 9 on this list, so let's just jump into them. So I'm just going to talk about these in the order that I read them. In August, there are 2 books that I gave, I think, 4 or 5 stars, and so I definitely want to recommend them to you if you haven't already checked them out. And the first one is The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. So this is their book that came out in 2021. It's a contemporary romance. This is following a single mom who is like a statistics wizard. She sort of has this independent business of doing statistics for people, and then it follows the guy character whose name is Dr. Riva Pina, and he has started this company called Genetically. I should put it on the screen here for you, but anyway, it is a company that basically runs your DNA and then pairs you up with a match. So you can sit in the system for a while until someone else comes in and has their DNA run that ends up being a match for you. And then you can choose like which matches that you're willing to see. So if you're willing to see like 50% and above, you want their information, or maybe you want to wait until you get a 75% or above match, or maybe you want to hold out for that 90% and above match, which, you know, may never happen. But anyway, so it follows these 2 characters, and the first time they meet, they don't really hit it off, but then they have a second meeting, and I still wouldn't say they really hit it off, but they end up, you know, he obviously has his DNA in the system, and she ends up having hers run, and they end up being a match, and so they sort of, you know, try this relationship out. And it's just a really cute book. I think I gave this one 4 stars. I would definitely recommend it if you haven't read it already. I haven't read Christina Lauren's entire backlist, but I didn't like this one as much as The Unhoneymooners or Josh and Hazel, but I did like it more than, say, In a Holidays. So I would recommend checking this one out if you're a fan of their works. I definitely think it's worth the read. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a fun time. Okay, and then I read The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise. I checked this one out from the library, so I'll put a picture of it up here. This was actually recommended by one of you, Sarah from Sarah As You Wish, I believe is her handle name on here. And yeah, so this is a middle grade book that is following this young girl, Coyote Sunrise, and her father as they sort of just travel the United States and live in this bus that they've sort of renovated to have like a couch and a bed and that sort of thing. You gradually come to find out through the book why they are doing this and their entire backstory. And this was just a super cute book. I loved Coyote Sunrise. She was, you know, one of my top characters, I think, of 2021. She was so memorable, so kind-hearted, and so courageous. She was excellent, and I loved her dad too, and the whole story. It was just emotional and sweet, and definitely one that I would recommend as well if you haven't already read this one. Then in September, I have 3 that were 4-star and above that I would recommend. The first one is Uzumaki by Junju Ito. So this one, sorry, I had that backwards. So this is a manga that is, I guess, classified as a horror manga, and it is all about spirals. So it is following this small town off the coast of Japan that has been contaminated by spirals, and it is just really gross and creepy and sort of like existential horror, I guess. And I don't know, there's just something about this book. The story is intriguing and nasty in a sort of way that makes you want to keep turning the pages. I can't explain it very well at all, but yeah, and the spirals just, they're gonna get you by the end. I can't even explain it all. I think I gave this one 5 stars because I think that the story was really well written and really well plotted, and there was just something so haunting about what the characters were going through in this town, and the artwork was really well done as well. It was creepy and disturbing, and parts of it were definitely gross and disgusting. So I wasn't like scared per se, but there were parts that were definitely like gross out pictures. And yeah, so if you're not into that kind of thing, not that I'm into that kind of thing, but it didn't bother me so much. I found it more intriguing in this format. I would definitely recommend this if you are into horror or manga, or even if you are wanting to try out this type of thing. I would recommend starting here. I have one other of his books that I want to try this year, and I definitely will probably be picking up more as well. Okay, and then in September, I also read The Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen. I believe this one actually came out in September 2021. So one of those very special times when I actually read the book on time. But this one I gave 4.5 stars. I think that this one was really charming and super sweet. It was a historical mystery with a dash of romance, and it was just a lot of fun. I found the mystery to be intriguing, and I found the characters to be really endearing. The main character had such a sweet friendship and with her 2 cousins, and they just really like looked out for each other, and I love to see female friendships like that. And then the romance that blossomed was like really slow burn and so sweet and loving. I just really liked this book all the way around. I really don't have anything negative to say about this book at all. I think the only reason why it didn't get the complete 5 stars is because maybe it was just a little bit slow in some places, and I don't think that it's like one of those books that would be universally recommendable for every reader. I think that some people might find this a little bit slow and maybe the mystery a little bit predictable, but to me, those things didn't bother me at all. I loved it all. I loved the characters, the romance, the mystery. It was just great all the way around. In September, I also read Because of Winn, Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. This is one of those books that probably everyone has read except for me until I finally read it this past year. Me and my daughters all read this book this past year, kind of like a buddy read situation. And this book is just so freaking heartwarming. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. It's following this girl named Opal, and she is living with her dad. Her mother has passed away. Her dad is a pastor, I believe, and she ends up finding this dog, Winn Dixie, in town. And they've just recently moved to this town, and she's sort of trying to make friends and fit in, and she convinces her dad to let her keep this dog. And the story is just about that. It's just about Opal making new friends and building connections in town, and about her connection with this dog. And this book is just so charming and heartwarming, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it already. This one is a 5-star read for sure. I haven't watched the movie yet, but that is definitely something that I do want to check out. So let me know if you've watched the movie and you think it's as good as the book, or at least worth the watch. Then moving on to November, I have 3 books that I read that month that I would recommend. The first one is Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. It's kind of hard to explain. So it has a little bit of magical realism. It's following this young woman. I think she's a senior in high school, and her name is Evie. And she is sort of struggling because her parents have just split up, and she always thought that they were like the perfect match, soulmates, and so she's having a hard time with it. And she ends up getting these visions. Whenever she sees a couple kiss, she has a vision of what the end of their relationship is going to be like. And so that has like made her not believe in love even more, because everyone that she sees just ends in heartbreak. So she thinks that love is just not worth it. And there's only like 1 or 2, I think, that end okay. And so it just makes her think that she does not want any part of love. But of course, she ends up taking these dancing lessons, and she meets a boy, and it's just I don't know. In some ways, it was kind of all over the place, but in another really sweet way, it was a sweet story, and it had way more to say about love and relationships than I thought it would. It sort of just took me by surprise by the depth of the story, I guess. And I loved the dancing settings, the dance competition, and the two main characters were just, I really liked them, and I liked them together, and it was just a really sweet story. If you haven't checked this one out already and you enjoy contemporary romance. Now these two are on the younger side. I think she's a senior in high school and he might be like a year younger, so you might classify this as young adult. I would think it was more like new adult, but yeah, definitely check this one out if you haven't already and you're into sweet contemporary romance. Okay, another contemporary romance I read in November that I would recommend is Rent a Boyfriend. So this one is following our main character who is in college, and her parents want her to find, meet, marry the perfect Chinese boyfriend, and she always has this pressure on her to be in the right career path that her parents want her to be in and to be dating the right person. And she is about to go home for the holidays, and she decides to hire a boyfriend to make her parents kind of get off her back a little over the holidays. And there is this company that is called Rent a Boyfriend, and they hire out the perfect Chinese boyfriend for women in I think it was the San Francisco area. And so she ends up hiring this guy, and yeah, they have like a fake relationship over a few holidays, and I don't want to tell you more than that, but this was super sweet and also surprisingly heartfelt. There was more to it than just the romance. There was a lot of like family politics going on and some emotional stuff as well, and I loved both of these characters. I really enjoyed the family dynamics and seeing their relationships unfold, and I really enjoyed the food aspect of this book. There was a ton of talk about Chinese food, and it was just fabulous. I definitely will be reading more from this author as well. Okay, and in November I finally read The Duke and I, the first in the Bridgerton series by Julia Quinn. I loved this book. Okay, I know that everyone has been reading this book because the series came out, or maybe had read it beforehand. It's a super popular series. I've heard good and bad things about it, and yes, there is one thing that happens in here that I know everyone has a problem with, but I think because I knew about that thing going into it, it didn't bother me as much as it would have if it was like a surprise. If you read this, you know what I'm talking about, but I loved this family. I think that's what the big draw for me was. I loved the Bridgerton family. I loved the sibling dynamics. I loved their mother. I just loved hearing about their family and all of their little outings that they go on. So to me, that was the biggest part, I think, of this. And then, of course, I did enjoy the romance. I loved to watch it unfold. But it was just so much fun. And also the gossip of Lady Whistledown and, all the other ton who were just big gossips. I don't know. It was just so much fun. And I cannot wait to read the second book and read more about the Bridgerton family. It was just great. I haven't watched the show yet, so let me know if you have and you think that it lives up to the book. I also really would like to know, how many books does the first season cover? Because I've only read the first book, so I don't know if I can watch season 1 yet. So let me know if you've watched that yet. And then in December, I just have one that I read that I would recommend, and that is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. So this is one that I think came out at the end of 2021, and I loved this book. I thought that it was perfect for Christmas time. Now this one is a very slow build book. It goes very slow. It's very much a character-driven story. I think this might be like my 5th Jenny Colgan books, and I feel like every book that I've read by her is that way. It is just very atmospheric. It's really a lot about the setting and very much about the characters and their journey throughout the book. So this one, the main character is sort of a mess. She's always been sort of jealous of her sister, who seems to have everything together. Her sister is married with kids and is successful in her job. It always seems like her parents like her sister more. And the main character You know, she doesn't have a relationship, which she thinks that she should, and she always feels like her parents think that she should. Her job that she had, just the company got closed down, and so she's been laid off, so she's sort of in between jobs. And so it's really about her journey of her sort of being okay with herself, finding a new career, moving on, and also there's a little bit of romance in this book as well. So to me, the biggest draw of this was the sister relationships. I love sister relationships or female friendships, and this one definitely had it in spades. Also, the relationship between her and her nieces and nephews was, it was so heartwarming. That was a huge draw to this book too. And she works at this bookshop with this little old man, and he is so sweet, and their relationship together was precious as well. Plus, there's the setting of Edinburgh, and I just love that at Christmas time. It was wonderful. I would love to visit there, of course. And yeah, the romance was really, really slow build, but I did like her romantic love interest. It took a while for that to get going, so it's not like the main focus of the book. It's mostly about her journey, but I would definitely recommend this one. I think you could probably still read it, you know, throughout the winter. You could read it any time of year, honestly, but I loved reading it in December, and I highly recommend this one if you haven't checked it out already. If you haven't read Jenny Colgan, I think this one is a standalone. Now, there is a character in here that is somehow related to the bookshop on the corner, I think it was, the Scottish Bookshop series, but you certainly do not have to have read those to be able to read this one, because I have read the first in that series, The Bookshop on the Corner, and I mean, the connection was very, very minor. I actually think the character is related to the second book in that trilogy. But anyway, yeah, so those are the 9 books that I read in 2021 and hadn't talked about yet. I definitely wanted to share them with you and recommend them and tell you that if you haven't read these already, that they are worth the read. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of these and what you thought about them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are all doing well, and I will see you next time.